As if reviving Merck weren't a big enough challenge, you've also taken on the challenge of investigating the Jerry Sandusky situation at Penn State and what it says about the culture of Penn State and why it wasn't spotted earlier and dealt with earlier. Why in the world would you do that?
That's a question that my wife asks all the time. Because she has a list of things she'd prefer that I do that I never get around to. I think the bottom line here is that I was already on the board of trustees. This is my alma mater. It is a school that, frankly, I grew up in the inner city of Philadelphia. I got 4 years of free education at Penn State. It completely changed my life. And so when this thing happened and sitting around a boardroom, people looked around and they said, is there anyone in this room who has had the experience with this kind of widespread public situation before? And I didn't raise my hand. And then I think the second question was, well, is there anyone here who's handled Vioxx before? and at that point, I guess it was pretty clear that I had been outed, as they say. And so it's really hard to step away from an institution that you've pledged your support for in its hour of need. And so I did take that on. We were able to get the former FBI director, Louis Freeh, to take over the investigation. And now that I've gotten someone who I think the public would agree is a pretty able investigator to take over, it should take less time.
Some people have been critical of the choice, though, for precisely that reason. They say that what you did at Vioxx was protect the company from excess liability, and what should happen at Penn State is not a focus on liability, but a focus on what went wrong.
And I think I said earlier on when you said we defended the company, people on the outside tend to look at the fact that, for once they were saying that liability could be as high as $40–50 billion, and it was much less than that. As Shelley can
around
tell
$6
you,
billion is the.
It was 4.85, not to be too specific about it. But as Shelley and others will tell you, inside the company, it was the defense of the institution. I'm a big believer in institutions. I think institutions are what allows us to have continuity in our civilization. And Merck is an important institution because of what it can do 20, 30, 40 years from now in terms of Alzheimer's and cancer and things of that nature. So too is Penn State an important institution. And so I took on that responsibility because I believe in the institution and I believe it's important to maintain institutions. This is a horrible situation that occurred, but it doesn't define that university. I don't know what the facts will ultimately be, but I think it's important in times like this that people step up and remind people of the value of an institution to the country, and that's how I see my responsibility.